Hey, we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder, up next on Geek Out SA.
Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream.
And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Friday and we're having fun. I didn't flub this one.
Nope,
this time.
you did good.
No, I did good.
And Aaron was even pretty quick on the uptake, so I was like, I don't even know if Vince is going to notice that Aaron's like cueing him in and everything. And it's kind of weird because we haven't had Aaron, like Aaron's been living his best life, so he hasn't been here producing the show. And so now I'm like, this is weird. Like having Aaron here to cue stuff up and everything. It's definitely nice for me not to have to be over there.
Is that who's been doing this?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just when it's just Vince and I'm the one who produces. So I'm trying to hit the buttons and look at my camera when I have something to say and think about what Vincent's trying to say and then like segue to stuff that we've talked about ahead of time or whatever. It's a lot. So it's really nice to have you back, Aaron, because I was like, can we teach the dog how to produce the show?
Because I can't do it. I mean, I know how to do it.
It's just hard when you're
It's
doing
hard
it
when I'm switching back and forth.
So Vince is, and there has been scientific research about the difference between men's ability to multitask and women's ability to multitask.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you get caught up on like the camera angles, you're messing with the light. Like when you're at that, you're doing 100 other things, looking at the chat, and so you're not in the conversation with me. So it is a little bit better when I'm the producer because I can kind of be in the conversation, and especially I think because I'm a teacher, so I'm kind of half listening to you, half not, like half paying attention to the stuff and half being in the conversation, and then trying to see like when I need to jump in or let you jump in. So it works out just a little better, and that's just a male versus female kind of the way our brains are wired kind of thing. So I don't get mad that it's me that I have to do it. I just get like flustered.
It's tough though because it's like you're trying to, no matter male or female, you're always trying. You're like, okay, look at the sound, pay attention to this, pay attention.
Yeah.
And then last week when you weren't here, he had updated the computer and everything.
Oh yeah, you had told me that.
And so he didn't hit the settings for the sound, and so I thought the sound was going, and it was going, but it wasn't going in OBS or whatever. So we did 20 minutes of the show with zero sound.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But it was
So what I'm hearing is I can't go on vacation anymore.
No,
it was so.
You need to go during the middle of the week.
It was so last minute too. We didn't even bring up an intro.
Well, I got something to
thought
tell
I
you,
did
so.
an intro. I tried to do the intro and it didn't work. Remember?
Yeah. Because it wasn't finding the file.
It didn't find the file
when I put everything over here.
Because Vincent was getting parts in from Amazon like that morning.
I actually got my graphics card that morning and I popped it in.
1660, right?
Yeah, and he was trying to finish things, and so it was
That's
kind of nice because that was what we had planned to talk about on the show anyway. So it just kind of showed we were able to talk about like when you update things can go wrong, you know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So it was kind of nice and it worked out. But this is definitely better. I feel
Because
relaxed.
it takes something off of y'all, and that, like you said, you can focus on the conversation. Because
Yeah.
like I know when I do my show with Robert, he gets mad because he's like, you're focusing on this and you're trying to make sure it sounds just perfect. You're losing the conversation. So he hates when I do it too, and I'm like, but I can do this. And I'm still in the conversation, just not. Yeah, I can't be 100%
Not
because
100%.
I'm 100% making sure the sounds good, knowing where the pads are. Yeah.
And sometimes it's
But
nice.
we digress.
Yes, we did. We're completely somewhere else.
We're just so happy to have Aaron back. We're just going to have a whole show about that.
Aw.
So Thor, we went to go see Thor. So
Love and
we've
Thunder.
given people plenty of time to see that.
Yeah, we
so
kind
we
of
can.
sat on it for a little bit
Yeah.
so that people could see it because it seemed like people were kind of trickling into it like pretty slowly.
Yeah.
I think people have been kind of trickling to the movies kind of slowly.
Still.
Yeah.
And then some people were upset because there was like a popcorn shortage, and then they didn't have like
Oh my
the
gosh,
large
don't get me started on that.
buckets.
Yes,
and people were
they still don't.
complaining, and so there's been all these supply chain issues that are making the things that we used to be used to much more difficult now, and we're still struggling with that. So we've been trying to give people a little bit more time on these movies that we see so that we're not spoiling them. But at this point, you've had enough time. So
Like plenty of time. We're going to spoil it.
We're going to spoil it.
Sorry if y'all haven't seen it. I think y'all have, though.
They can step away and come
Yeah,
back.
they can come back after.
And you come back and watch
If you
it again.
haven't seen it in the theater, like, I hate to be the person to tell you, but it's not worth seeing in the theater. Like, it's really one of those, in my opinion, it's an at-home movie. Like, you watch it at your house, in your PJs, you can get up and get snacks, you can pause it as needed, you can go to the bathroom. Like, not that it requires a lot of, like, brain power to watch anyway, but I just didn't feel like it was
like,
really
going
necessarily
into
worth
it,
the theater.
I didn't want to, like, lead with that, but we can go ahead and
I wanted to lead with that because it's trash. No, it's not trash.
It's
but
not trash. It's just not a great movie.
It's what I would told everybody going into it. It's a movie you have to go in there saying it's a popcorn flick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a comedy,
Right.
not an action. And if you go in there with that mindset, I think it's better.
But the balance that they had in Ragnarok was so good.
Yeah.
The balance was such perfection.
It was perfect.
We had the comedy. We had the action. We had the character interactions. I felt like Ragnarok was one of those movies that I come back to and reference all the time.
See, but the thing is, with Ragnarok, we had only two that were comedy. It was just Thor and Hulk.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Like, everybody was pretty serious.
Right.
In
Jeff
this
Goldblum,
one,
kind of. Yeah.
this one, Jeff Goldblum was playing Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, that's true.
In this one, it wasn't. Everybody was silly. It was like everybody had a joke.
Yeah, and it was just campy, which is okay. Which is okay, but not okay, if that makes sense. Like, because I was set up with an expectation from Ragnarok of a good balance, when we got to Love and Thunder, the balance was so off that it was off-putting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just a little too much. I wouldn't say it was like Leslie Nielsen too much, but it was getting close.
It was getting
It
close
was
to there.
close.
It was close to there. Really
yeah.
close to there.
It was like skirting that.
And I like that, but I don't like that necessarily in my Marvel movies.
Right.
I like some comedy, but I don't like the whole thing to be comedy.
And the thing was...
And the subject shouldn't have been all comedy.
See, and that was my thing. And I guess maybe because, you know, you supported me through the time when my dad passed away from cancer and we went through the 2 years of all of that and everything. So I felt like Jane having cancer and her journey and her becoming the female Thor to try to get beyond something that's so frightening and so tumultuous in people's lives, like, we didn't get a chance to really sit with that story, which I think would have been a beautiful story.
Right.
But they were just too silly around it for too much, that I didn't feel like we got to sit with it, that even she became silly.
Yeah.
And so for me, it kind of ruined that chance for all of us who have been there and had family members who have had cancer, or those people that have had cancer, and that strength that comes through when you're fighting it. And maybe I read too much into movies. You know, sometimes I do read too much into movies. But I felt like...
But every time she becomes Thor, doesn't that, like, take more of her? Isn't she supposed to get sicker after that?
Killing her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really show that.
Not until
in the
towards
movie.
the
Not
end.
till
Not until
towards the
the end.
very end. Yeah, till towards the very end. You know, and then she makes the ultimate sacrifice and everything, which by the time you get there, you're like, yeah, like, you know, we saw this coming like a million miles away. You didn't give us any chance to have any kind of depth of character. Like, we've been waiting for Jane to come back, because he references her over and over. So you know that he's been pining for her all these years, right?
Yeah.
And it was a good love story in the very beginning. And so I think we connected to those two being together. And I mean, who doesn't love Natalie Portman, right? She's just adorable and she's such a good actress. And so I think a lot of us have been waiting to have her back and to see them connect. and it was just too silly. Like, it was just too campy. It was kind of like, it reminded me of Step Brothers, where they're like, oh, did we just become best friends or whatever, you know? Like, yup. That was kind of what their coming back together kind of reminded me of. It was just like, oh, have we both been pining for each other all along? Yup. Okay, let's kiss and make out.
It just makes me wonder, like, what the director's cut is.
And see, and that was something I was talking to Robert about. How much is it Taika Waititi, and how much is it Marvel Studios? Like, this worked last film.
Yeah.
Double down on it now.
Yeah.
Right.
Really make it like that.
So, because I got a feeling for it when we did the 48-hour film project of the stuff that you had to cut to make it in there, because
that in your mind makes the storyline progress,
Right.
and you can't put it in there because you don't have because you have a time constraint.
you have a time
Now
constraint.
you know what I deal with, sir.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if we're gonna get some of that. And the thing is they have the Guardians in the Galaxy in there, and they're campy, and we expect them to be campy, and that's great. When they're campy with Thor, I'm all in. Right? I'm down for it. I'm all in. Let's be campy. Let's go. You
But
know?
they should have had, like, some comedy in the beginning, the comedy in the front, and then comedy at the very end. Not comedy throughout the entire thing.
Well, and they've turned Thor into a joke.
Yeah.
Where he's not just that. He has no dimension anymore. Like, Thor is not just a joke. Yes, is he kind of derpy? Sometimes, yes, but
Sometimes, but
but
that's
he
because.
also has.
But in this one, they
depth.
made him stupid.
It's the Harley
Stupid.
Quinn effect. I don't know if you get what I mean by that. That's what it is. You know, Harley Quinn is highly, highly intelligent, but every writer makes her sound dumb.
Right.
And that's completely incorrect of what she really is. I've only seen her written a couple of times where it's like her intelligence comes out.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
it's like,
Steve
dang.
says, "Hey guys, happy Friday."
Hey, Steve, happy Friday. You know, and I don't mind them going in kind of a direction where he's kind of goofy and derpy, but
Yeah.
Not
and
all the
again,
time.
like not
Not the
all
whole
the time.
thing.
In Ragnarok, I thought we had we
And
started to
but
kind
that's
of
the
go
thing.
a little too far. but they
Maybe
brought
if it was
back.
just him, and he was silly throughout the entire thing, and nobody else was, that would have been fine.
But even the Valkyrie, who's supposed to be like the strength, and even she was goofy, and everybody was over the top, and it seemed like their acting was over the top and everything. And I'm sure they were led to do that. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
blaming the actors for that. And like you said, Aaron, it was probably the studio saying, "Oh, well, everybody loved Ragnarok, and we were goofy in that, so let's, you know, like you said, double down." But that was the nice thing in Ragnarok is the Valkyrie. She's sarcastic, she's tough, you know, she's pushing back, she's not putting up with anything, and you kind of get a little of that in Love and Thunder, but then she has a bunch of one-liners.
yeah.
And all that stupid stuff with Zeus.
I hated that whole part,
Thank
honestly.
you. I hated that so much.
They could have eliminated that entire part.
That was so Bill and Ted's, right? Like,
was.
let's beat up some people going into heaven and steal their outfits and go and, like, try to sneak into heaven and, you know, get station or whatever. You know, it was kind of that
but it
same...
didn't add to the
It didn't
story.
add
No.
anything.
Like Robert said, why is he, what's his name? The guy playing Zeus. Not
Russell Crowe?
Russell
Yeah,
Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Why is he trying to talk with an accent? Even Thor doesn't talk with an accent.
Exactly.
So what's the whole point? Just let him talk.
Just let him talk
Like,
because
who
he
cares?
sounded stupid.
He did.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I hate this whole scene so much.
I hated that whole scene so much. It was so pointless.
Like, the first time I watched, because I watched it, you know, a couple times. The first time I was like, something doesn't feel right. And then the second time I was like, yep, that's what it is. It's him. And I love him as an actor. He's a great actor.
Yeah, I do
So it's
too.
like, what did you do to him? Like, why did you tell him to go this direction?
I agree. Because it was, I don't know, it was like trying to make a mockery of Zeus, which I guess because I'm a
Maybe he
geek
just
and
wanted to
stuff-
play something different than he hasn't. He doesn't play comedy. Russell Crowe.
I
No,
know, but he's
He could have
Zeus.
played Gladiator.
Like,
I
He
mean,
could have played, but yeah, we would have expected that though.
That's what I would want, though.
that's
Zeus.
what I want. Like, I want
That's-
Zeus to
well,
be
exactly.
Zeus, you know?
But what I'm saying is like he's been typecast and he doesn't want to play that anymore. Since I'm gonna be with.
But you can be strong and funny. You don't have to be derpy and funny.
Like the part where he walks up to Thor, I didn't mind that. It's like, well, yeah, I'm scared. Like, dude, like that was the part. It's like, okay, there you are. Like,
Right.
drop the accent, and there's the Russell Crowe I know.
Right.
Like that Zeus would have been cool because it's like you said, it'd been like, yeah, macho. And nah, fuck, man, I'm scared.
Yeah, like you're the god of all gods,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
are the it, right?
Yeah.
And you're up there like, oh, I'm in the VIP box with all my bitches. Excuse my French, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
already messed up. I'm
like
trying to stop too.
that's kind of how it was, right?
Yeah.
And then here he comes flying in his VIP box with all of his hot chicks with hardly anything on, like choo 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 choo. I'm so cool, you know. And it ruined what I thought could have been another opportunity for them to take a break from the comedy and have a character that was in there that was strong, and then let some of the comedy come in naturally.
Yeah.
Because Zeus could have been funny. He could have like done zingers to Thor, because they kind of did a few zingers from Zeus to Thor. You know, God of Thunder, God of Lightning. You know,
Yeah.
right? But they just didn't land because they were too silly.
Yeah.
It was just too silly.
And
If
then
he-
you get the Celestials in the background that were just Easter. I'm like, I don't need just an Easter egg of 2 Celestials, which probably wouldn't even be here because these are gods and the gods are beneath the Celestials. So why would they even be hanging out here?
right.
I
right.
liked it and I didn't.
Yeah.
But did you? So I watched it, like I said, a couple times. So Christian Bale plays the God Butcher.
Yeah.
And the very beginning, his mole switches around. And I was laughing at it because I was like, it's switching. And I was watching, I was like, how many times did it switch? I'm like, editing mistakes when you really like start hardcore looking. It's terrible. But like,
One thing I liked his character.
you did? I was about to say. What'd you
I
thought
did
of him?
like his character.
I don't know how I felt on him. I did like that they actually tried to make you sympathize with him, though.
I did like that aspect that you do sympathize with him. And see, that could have been really strong too, because here's this father who loses his child and he blames the gods.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure people can relate to that too.
It's a very relatable thing,
Yeah.
I think.
Especially, you know, people that are religious. And so he wants justice for his daughter. And he takes it too far. You know? He was the
There's-
only one who had character growth throughout
Right.
the
Yeah.
movie. So I did enjoy his character, because at least we do see him gain some character growth. And he does, in the end, give of himself for his daughter to be alive. But then, he has this beautiful daughter who is strong and understanding, and he's led us, you know, through this journey of getting to kind of know her through his eyes and everything. And, you know, maybe he saw her another way because he's the dad or whatever. But here she is at the end with Thor, and she's goofy too.
And I cut her slack because you say she's young, she's getting that life. I cut her a little slack.
I know, but I just felt like
Well,
they could have written her better.
they
right?
could have, I agree.
She's been through this life and death experience, right? And everybody's always about girl power, girl power, girl power. But then it's like when they give us power, we still have to be stupid or a blonde or like nitpicky or whiny about things, or, you know, like I just wanted her to, I guess, be older than, like, wiser than her years, and older because of all that she had gone through and because of the power that she amasses. And I don't know. I would have liked to have seen it go differently.
What I'm wondering, and this is pure speculation, is if it's not his daughter, because technically she is actually Infinity, the daughter of Eternity. So she's technically Eternity's daughter, not really his daughter. And so then you could say it's a whole other being that's was just born essentially inside this little girl, and that's just kind of like the vessel it's chosen to look like. Because that's who, when she was using those powers she had, I was like, that's Infinity. That's not his daughter anymore. So I'm wondering if they're going to lead into that. So that's why I guess I cut it slack, because it's like, maybe it's a whole new entity, and it's just in her shell, essentially, you could say, or however you want to put it. And that could be it, but I get where you're coming from. Because, yeah, it's still goofy. it's still, she's a little brat and she's a little goofy and.
Yeah, and that's
I
why
don't
I
know.
was like, did we really have to go there with her?
Yeah.
Like, we could have just let her be a strong character, you know?
That's true.
And I guess I'm just a little more sensitive sometimes because I am a girl, and I see everybody trying to do girl power, and there always seems to be these little digs in there, right? Like, I'm still the damsel in distress. I have girl power, but only to an extent, and I need a guy to save me. Or I have girl power, but I'm a biatch. And, or, you know, I'm, like, picky about things, or, you know, my clothes itch me and I'm Princess in the Pea or something. You know, there's always some little something in there, some little dig, I feel like. So I had some problems with all of the female characters in this, you know, just for me, like scientists and everything. So having Jane be a scientist and being an intellectual, and then, I don't know, she just comes across as derpy.
And that and that entire story of her actually becoming Thor, it's just it didn't hit well with me. It's just like, oh, okay, I go to this place and I see Thor's hammer, and then it comes back together, and now I'm Thor.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like that they were trying to fit the montage in it of like, oh, they really did love each other. Like, we didn't need that. I felt like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there were things in it that they could have cut out so that we could have had some more depth of characters for other parts. And they could have cut some things a lot shorter. I mean, I really feel like if they would have cut that whole God thing, you know,
Oh, that was
and they
so
would have
much
just
time.
snuck in and like, you know, he was taking a nap and they stole it off the wall or something, like I would have taken that much better.
I would have been happy, and maybe not even a nap, but you see like silhouettes of women and stuff. It's like, oh, we know what he's gonna do because that's what Zeus is.
Because he's Zeus,
and it's
right?
just, and it could be like Thor, like really, like he's not. Oh, okay. Well,
Right. Like
like he left
that.
out in the open, I guess. Like, all right.
Yeah. Like I felt like something like that would have been so much better.
And you get the comedy because it could be the look. It's just like, really, like that's
Like,
the
still?
guy I worship. He's just with a bunch of okay. All right, well, just go.
And then we saw it way before we did the project, and still, I had my reservations about it.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna
after
ask you
seeing
too. What did you think of the post credit? Not the last one, the second to last, where Zeus is talking again. What did you think?
I thought, oh dear God, please tell me that they're not going to do any kind of spin-off with this character as Zeus, because this is the worst Zeus I've ever seen in my entire life. That's what I was thinking. I don't know what Vince was thinking, but that was my opinion.
Vince?
Probably close to that.
That's funny.
Close to that, just because
You're done with it.
I was
huh?
done with the character because it was just silly.
Yeah.
It's just like,
It really
oh,
was.
okay, whatever.
You know, and I think a lot of us that are geeks, like,
And then he's not my Zeus.
we start with,
Zeus
Not
is
my
from
Zeus.
Zeus from Clash of the Titans is my Zeus.
But which
Yeah.
one from Clash of the Titans?
The
There's two.
original.
The
Clash of the
original.
Titans.
The original.
No, I like Liam Neeson still.
Liam Neeson was pretty
pretty
good,
good.
but not as good as the original.
but the thing is, a lot of us that are geeks, like, that's some of our first foray, I guess, into the comic world is Greek mythology, right? And especially those of us that are role players and stuff like that, and that genre and all of that. So I guess we have certain opinions about what this should be like. It was like when our son watched what's the Percy Jackson movie?
Oh, yeah.
And he had read all the Rick Riordan books, and he like read all this stuff about mythology, and then he saw that movie. He was so upset, like upset for months. He was upset.
Well, like you and
Me and Ready Player One.
Ready Player One.
That movie upset me. Okay, it was. Not
My
okay.
mom was upset with that one. I still never finished the book. She read the book and then watched the movie. She's like, the movie bites.
The book was
hated it.
beautiful. It was beautiful. It was so like 1980s.
Because you were
It was
reading
written
some of
really
it
well.
for me, and it like put me to sleep. But I was like interested in it when you were reading it to me.
It put me to
So
sleep.
interested, he fell asleep.
I was reading it, but it
And I
made
was
me
like,
fall
oh, that's
asleep.
really cool. But
I like it.
I'm older now. so I just fall asleep all the time.
He's not a book guy. He's like, why isn't this book a movie? Then they turn it into a movie and they ruin it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why did they
But
turn
there
it
was
into a
Why
no
did
movie
they
with a
turn
book?
it into a movie?
There's no way they could have done the
Not
movie
the
justice
licensing.
ever. There's no way. There's no way they could have gotten that many licenses for that movie.
They didn't need the licensing. It was, again, what they did with character depth. I think for me, always, when a movie dies for me is when they just don't give the characters any depth.
No, but you cared about the stuff because of the content that was in there.
What was the
I
one
cared
that-
about the story that you were telling me because of the content.
Some
that
of
was
it,
in
yeah,
there.
because we grew up in the 80s, so it was a lot of the things that we grew up
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
And if you didn't get that in the movie, because I was like, wow, how the heck are they going to do this? I was like, there's going to be so many
They
licensing.
changed so much of it, though. Like, and they had a lot of licensing in there. They could have done a better job. I'm just saying, they could have done a better job.
Ender's Game, that was fun. Robert hated Ender's Game. He loved the books.
Oh, I loved Ender's Game.
He loves the books. He
I
said
love the books,
movie was
too.
terrible, he said. He thought. I was like, what was the one that me and Robert were just talking about?
I thought the movie was wonderful. Different, very different, but
Yeah.
a very good. I thought it was a very good interpretation.
I have to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. Anyway.
But then again, like after we cut that movie that we did, you have a new understanding for how to tell a story given the guidelines that you have.
Yeah.
And given the time frame that you have, and given the time
And the
amount,
budget that you have, and,
And the budget that you
whatever
have.
else it is that you have.
and
Yeah.
then the story can be very different because you just can't use some footage.
Yeah. I mean, look at my film. That's why it's taken so long. I've had to change
Yeah.
4 or 5 times. I mean, even for this weekend, it's already changed twice on me now.
Yeah.
So, or no, next weekend, the 7th. So yeah, it's, and again, it all comes down to what does Disney want, though.
Well, but that was the thing with Justice League. Like, to see Justice League and then to see the director's cut, or not
Snyder
Justice League,
cut.
it was
Superman
versus
versus
Batman.
Batman versus
Or
Superman,
Batman versus Superman. It was a totally different movie. It was a completely different movie.
Yeah.
It was more coherent.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much better. It
It's-
was worth watching,
Yeah.
you know? And so I
but
wonder
even Justice
if,
League.
I wonder if we need to
Justice
go
League was a better movie, the director's cut.
Give me 4
Yeah.
hours. Anything will be better, though.
Well, I wonder if we need
But
to go
Justice
back
League
to
was a
these-
completely different movie.
Like The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music is a 3-hour movie.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
It puts her to sleep, apparently.
And it has an intermission. No, I've been like working really
You've been
hard.
like me.
And I went back to work this week, and my body's not used to going back to work. So
You're like, wait.
my body's like, what?
That and all the renovations we did.
Yeah. So maybe we need to go back to those like 3-hour movies to where it's an hour and a half, and then you have like a midpoint, and you take an intermission.
Yes,
And everybody
intermission
gets-
I'll agree with.
And everybody gets to get up and go to the bathroom and go get some new snackage and come back, and then you do the last hour and a half, you know? Because it seems like some of these movies would be better told in 3 hours.
I think that's the problem, is though there's so much instant gratification they can't do that. The younger generations, I don't think, could sit there for 3 hours.
I don't even know how they sit there for 2 hours, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I mean, so I think that's the problem with it. Like what movie I saw it was, it was a Tarantino film, or was it Rodriguez? The Hateful Eight. If you actually watched it on Christmas Day when it came out years and years ago, it was a 3-hour film, and it had an intermission. It had all of that, but it's a long film, and there's a lot of dialogue. I went with an ex-girlfriend, and she hated it because she was like, "Oh, it's so long. There's so much talking." I'm like, "But it's Tarantino.
It's
'Cause
Tarantino.
That's
It's
Tarantino."
Tarantino.
Yeah.
I was like, right when you said talking, I was like, "Yep, that's Tarantino." It's like, but that's his work. That's what he does, a lot of dialogue.
But
and I
that's
loved
the
it.
thing, like, you're invested, right?
I loved it when it was that long, because when they did the like regular release, it was only like an 2-hour long movie or something, 2:15 or something like that. But yeah, I think it's because the generation, she's about my age, and it's like even people my age, I don't think
People your age don't know.
you have to love those kind of. And I love Tarantino, I love Rodriguez, I love a couple of these directors, Kevin Smith, and it's like you'll sit there for those guys, but would you sit there for 3 hours of Thor? I don't know if I would, honestly.
I don't. If it was done well, I might.
Yeah.
Right?
If it was done like Ragnarok, I could do 3 hours. of
Yeah.
it.
I think that's when I think the studios has to step out, though. I bet you a lot of it was Disney. And let's face it,
Possibly.
he can never say anything because then he'll never work for them again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at Sam Raimi. He, with the third Spider-Man, he hated it. And if you look at it, there's videos out there long time ago. He did not want to do Venom ever. And then when he did Venom, he's like, oh yeah, Venom's so good. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I remember you talking about you didn't want to do this film.
You're telling lies.
Yeah.
Well, and I haven't read any of the Thor comics, and so I don't know if. Sorry. It's going to be one of those days. In the Thor comics, is Jane the female Thor? Because there is a female
Yes.
Thor in the comics.
She
so
does
Jane
become
is,
the female Thor because of the cancers. It is killing her.
Yeah.
Um,
So for people that have read that, and again, maybe that's a tiny minority of people, right? But then they get cheated out of getting to see a good story of kind of a lesser known character that they would have probably really enjoyed. Like, I was shocked. I thought our son was going to hate the Morbius movie because he is a Morbius
yeah, I remember we talked
super
about that.
fan. And I thought, man, this kid's going to hate this. But he was so enamored with it. And I think it's just because he waited so long and he probably will never have a chance again to have his favorite comic book character be in a movie.
Yeah.
And so here's this female Thor that I'm sure a lot of people gravitate to and they really wanted to see her. And it's like Natalie Portman. And so we know she's got the acting chops, you know, and you're ready and you're like all invested in it. And then they kind of butcher your story, you know. So that's who I kind of feel
And I
bad
don't
for.
feel she acted great as Jane in this.
Better than the second Thor film, though. I think the other thing is, like Robert said it best on ours, is that there was no real, like there could have been a nice, interesting story with a love triangle with, like, Valkyrie, Natalie Portman's character, or, you know, Jane, and Thor. There could have been a nice, like, interesting love triangle because there was, you know, there were some flirtations between Thor and Valkyrie, and there was flirtations you got a little bit, it seemed like, with Valkyrie and Jane. And they've already commented Valkyrie goes both ways, so it's like, okay, this could have been an interesting little love triangle. But like Robert said, the love triangle is between Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, and Thor. And he's like, that's the only fun part to him, was that that's the love triangle is them three. And it's like, he's not wrong, because he's right, but it was terrible. It's like, you could have done more with them three.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, they just needed to pick less comedy.
They should have picked also, this was your chance to bring everybody out, and they brought no one. Like, other Celestials, other gods, like, you got Zeus. But, like, we were sitting there, and me and Elena were, and you don't see anything in the crowd, really, of either, of, like, where's Ares? Ares should have been there.
Yeah.
There's no Ares. We don't see Hercules until the post-credit. Why don't we even see, like, it would have been nice to see maybe a variant of Loki running around. Because, I mean, he's still around. Where's everybody else? You know, there could have been so many other characters that you could have pulled out. So many Celestials, demigods, like maybe even mention Galactus, maybe mention some of these ones, like, oh, hey, because they're just talking about, oh, they're just going to have this giant orgy and all this. But it's like, why not bring someone else? You literally had two Celestials out there. You could have talked about Galactus. You could have talked about other things going on. Oh, you know, what's going on in the universe, so we can start getting what's up. Because they comment already in the beginning, and it's never played out ever again, is that there's a lot of distress calls. The Guardians say there's a bunch
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's causing all of it? It's not the God Butcher doing all of it. It's everything. I don't know. I mean, they gave us a couple of Easter eggs. You see, if you look in the throne room, you see the Living Tribunal, and you see Death, and you see the Watcher, Utawu. But that's just an Easter egg. It's like, why didn't you guys talk about these characters throughout the thing?
Yeah, and if you're not even paying attention, because I was checked out because that
point?
scene, because that scene just agitated me so much that I was so checked out, I didn't even see any of the Easter eggs. Like, I didn't notice any of it because I was like, I need this scene to be over with.
I think that's why I noticed them more, because I shifted towards it, because that was the next thing I wanted to see. Because, like, they're in the last fight where they start fighting the God Butcher, and you see Utawu, and I was like, oh, there's Utawu. And I was like, wait, and I saw the chin for Lady Death. I'm like, well, there's Lady Death, and then I see the heads turning, and I'm like, well, there's the Living Tribunal. I'm like, oh, well, there's three, But again, no one knows who these people are unless you read the comics and
Unless you
seen
read the
them.
comics, yeah.
And it's like, why didn't you talk about that? Oh, like, Living Tribunal again, blah, blah, blah. Or like Lady Death's getting mad because our other post-credit scene was going to ask y'all what you thought of it was we get Jane in Valhalla. And we get to see Heimdall again. But like Robert was saying, is this a prelude that death doesn't really matter? Because the multiverse and everything's breaking now, so is it going to be that they're just in another universe, multiverse kind of thing, and they're going to be able to pull them all out?
Like, so now we're going to get Black Widow back and everybody.
You can get Iron Man back. You can get.
Going to be, right. So now you have this plane of existence where everybody who died went.
Because we got, I mean, we're not going to, they've already said they're not going to bring back, but you got like Black Panther, you got, I forgot what plane they called it, but you have where all the kings were. Now we got Valhalla. I mean, I don't know. Because I would think it would be an interesting story if we see Lady Death.
Tony died in battle. Because Tony died in battle.
Yeah, so he technically would be
So
in
he
Valhalla.
technically could go to Valhalla.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, like, it would be kind of an interesting storyline if they did a movie where Death does come out and she's just tired. She's like, no one's staying dead. Like, now I'm gonna make it permanent. And she does something. Like, that'd be kind of cool. But they won't go that dark ever.
Maybe they should.
Maybe they could.
Yeah.
I mean, just call Punisher. He can put a few rounds in everybody.
They
Talking
like to leave
about
the
Punisher,
darkness for.
that-
They like to leave the darkness for DC. It's all,
And
well,
then DC can't do it.
but it's almost like they've tried so hard to make it so that DC is the dark
Yeah.
and Marvel is the light or whatever, and they're more campy and stuff. That then again, here we get things in
Yeah.
Thor, that, and then it makes you wonder: is there going to be too much of this in their other stuff because they don't want to be dark and gritty and everything like DC, especially because Disney has it, and it's like, Disney is all happy, joy, and princesses and
They
stuff.
must have known that this was too silly after they released it.
I mean, you would think just when you're watching the edits, like, there's got to be somebody who's watching it going, no. Like, I don't know what the process is like because I've never been in the film industry, but
Right.
there's got to be checks along the way, right?
So they have testing audiences, and to me, what this said is that whatever testing audiences they showed it in front of, they liked it for whatever reason.
I guess, yeah.
And that's the problem, is that if those people, the majority of those audience members liked it, they're going to run with it.
Yeah.
Even if there was those like people like us who are like, nah, this wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. They're, okay, well, you're the minority, so we'll still
Right.
make our
We'll still
70,
make our
90,
money.
200, 300 million.
Well, that's what I meant to ask because
it's
I didn't
okay.
look.
It's not a
much
bad
did they make?
movie.
Let's see. I'll look.
No, it's not a bad movie. It's a fun movie. It's okay, like, to watch as entertainment. Don't get me wrong. Like,
But it's not this epic that we've
I
expected.
guess it's not what I was hoping for, right? I was hoping for that same balance that we got in Ragnarok. I really felt like Ragnarok had a good balance. And so, I don't know. I just didn't feel like we got it. Because, in Ragnarok, we get to see Bruce Banner, and he's afraid, and he's worried, and he's anxious, and then he tries to be the Hulk, and so there's funny parts and stuff. So we get some depth in his character, even though he's funny and silly. And even Thor, he's funny and silly and everything, and he's in there, and he's like, oh, I know that dude, right? And it's like, he's goofy, and he's pouting, and all this stuff. But then when it comes time to fight, he's serious, and he fights, and he's there, and he's in it, and he's willing to give his life, and it wasn't all one. It didn't seem to me like it was all one-liners at that point. Like,
Right.
he was taking it seriously, and he switched over, right? And when he knew he needed to be serious, he was serious. And so I
we
felt
didn't
like
get
that
that
was
in
what I
this
missed
movie,
in Love
yeah.
and Thunder. I just didn't get any of that. It was just all silliness all the time. So
silly.
So opening weekend, it made $144 million. Right now, it's sitting worldwide at $612 million. Domestic right now is at $288 million.
is that good or?
I mean, well, let's look at Thor Ragnarok.
I just
compare 'em.
wonder what it's like compared to Ragnarok or to like Endgame or something like that.
Endgame is way
Like
more.
Endgame has got to be like out there.
All right, so Ragnarok made opening weekend, and this is just in the U.S., 122 million opening weekend. Worldwide, it made 853 million. So about 200 million less than Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Let's see, Avengers Endgame. Box
The
office.
thing, what movie did, aside from Ragnarok,
Messages.
the other movie that I thought did funny and silly and campy balanced really well was the new Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
We got like silly stuff and everything where he's like, oh,
Yeah,
you're
but they
part
were
of the
serious,
Avengers? Oh, is that a
too.
band? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, but
It's
there was like chunks of that, not the whole thing.
that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
You get the seriousness throughout the entire movie.
I feel like some of these movies had the formula down, and then it makes me worry for the subsequent ones. Are they going to kill it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then, if we get another Spider-Man because we've gotten such a great one, are they just going to kill it? And try to be
Right.
too funny and too silly? Because Peter Parker does tend to be, Mr. One-Liner, and he does tend to be kind of silly. And so, are we going to get that? I just don't want them. I don't want all of my superhero movies to become Leslie Nielsen movies.
Right.
Like, I just don't. I don't like Leslie Nielsen movies. I don't find them
Aw.
funny. Vincent loves that kind of stuff. He's all
used to-
for that kind of humor and stuff. And there's a place for that,
Yeah,
Me
but,
too,
yeah,
just I love 'em.
but those movies, they're expected to be that way.
But
Yeah.
right, and you know that they're going to be like that. It was like when we watched Evil Dead, the series. It was campy on top of campy on top of campy on top of campy, but it's like it's Evil Dead, and it's like
Yeah.
and so you went into it expecting it, and it was okay, and you actually even wanted it to be that campy. You were like,
Yeah.
the campier the
That's what you
better, like
expected
that's
it
what
to
you
be.
were hoping for, right? And so I wanted some of that camp in Thor: Love and Thunder, but I just didn't want the whole movie to be that way. So that was where my disappointment lied. And again, I agree with y'all. I think Christian Bale, I liked
Wasn't worth it.
his character was the best, I think, overall, because at least he had some character growth throughout, and he had some of the arc. Again, his mole moves back and forth. I don't know if
That was just funny.
I don't
It
know
only
if
did in the
that was
beginning.
supposed to be comedy. Like, have you ever seen Young Frankenstein
Gosh, years ago. I wanna
with
say.
Gene Wilder?
Yeah.
So in Young Frankenstein, the hunchback, his
Oh, he
his
moves
hump
around,
moves,
yeah.
but it's a gag.
It-
It's a sight gag.
So
and they mention it.
it's literally an editing mistake because it never does it after the first 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
It never does it again.
How funny.
So it was literally because it's on this side, I think, and then when he's about to kill the god, it's on this side, and then it flips. And I think it does like twice, I think. Because I was like, did I just see that? And I was looking, I was like, it was just on the other side. Now it's on that side. Wait a minute. So, and just compared to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, opening weekend made 187 million, and worldwide it's made 954 million.
Yeah. So Thor's just not stacking up, It's not.
Not this one.
Not
no.
this one.
No.
So,
Because at the end, you don't have that epicness that you've had in every other Thor.
Yeah.
yeah.
An epic ending. You don't have an epic ending.
It's like what I was telling Robert, because we were talking about this with San Diego Comic-Con. It feels like even though this is supposed to be Phase 4 now, there's no direction still. And it's like everything from Phase 3, right, when Thor Ragnarok came out, there's a direction. It was going straight into Avengers Endgame.
Right.
Or Infinity War, whatever. And some of the movies were leading up to the last two Avenger films. There's nothing leading up to anything right now. Nothing is connecting really. Like if you watch Ms. Marvel, the TV show, it doesn't end anywhere except all of a sudden her and Captain Marvel switch, and it's supposed to lead into the Marvels, which okay, well at least it gave us an idea of where it's going. But like Thor is just like, okay, we'll see Thor again. But when are we going to see him in the event? Is it going to be the Avengers movies? Is it going to be the Quantum movie? Because is it going to be in Loki season 2? Because
Or Captain America.
Captain America, like where are we going to see him? It just felt like they didn't know where to end it at. Where at least these other films have had in Phase 3 had stopping points. Like okay, we're done. We're leading into the Avengers films. Everything right now just feels like it's going everywhere.
Yeah, but now we're going to lesser known characters, lesser known heroes.
But they should still
Throughout
have an
the
end
stuff.
game. They should still
They
have
should
a
have an
path.
end
Like
game, but-
here's where I'm going to end up.
The thing is, like, nobody cares.
That's
They
what
don't
I'm
know
saying.
anything about these characters, so we don't have any connection with them.
See, that's where I'm starting to lose it. The shows are connecting better, honestly, at this point. They're coming like end of Hawkeye. Well, where's Kingpin, and it leads into it's gonna lead into Echo. Loki leads straight into the Kang stuff. Like he's leading now. That's gonna go into probably Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantum Mania. What else do we have? WandaVision kind of led into Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah.
So they're all the shows led into something. I mean,
Well, so do
I don't
you
know.
think that they're trying because they see kind of what we see and
Trying to push the shows.
they're trying to push it more to shows, and we're going to see less and less and less of the movies because I think movies are going to die, maybe.
Well, because I hear there's going to be a whole reboot for Daredevil.
That's what me and I think Ethan. I don't know if you know him. We were talking about that. If we don't know, no one knows 100% if it's a reboot yet or not. Like no one's saying anything.
Yeah.
So and he's in the yellow and red costume. So I'm like, is it a reboot or is it going to be? Because I don't know if you remember the comics when he wore the red and yellow costume. It wasn't Matt Murdock. And I'm not Matt Murdock. You're confusing me with the Crimson Daredevil guy.
Mm-hmm.
So now maybe that's what people are like. That's the reboot. Is that it's not him? Oh, it's not me. I'm not Matt Murdock. Even though everyone knows it's Matt Murdock. But I don't know. Because he never gave away his identity in the show, really, except to his people.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I worry that, I mean, not that I don't like the shows because I do love the shows and I think that they're doing some good things with the shows. But I worry that in our lifetime, movies are going to become less and less.
Because John Bernthal is supposed to come back as Punisher in the new Daredevil show.
Just read something too that he got signed up. He is signed up for something right now. So maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're right though. It makes you wonder. I think they're just trying to figure out where's the money. Let's face it. That's all.
Yeah, that's what they're
Is it
always
gonna
trying to
be-
find out.
Yeah. And
How much money can we get, and who can we get it out of, right?
And I wonder if COVID just really pushed them, like you said, to, well, everyone's at home anyway, so let's just make them shows. And people will subscribe and pay, was it $8 a month for Disney Plus or whatever? We'll get them for we'll get them a year. We'll at least get that.
And I just saw
160.
I just saw a new study that came out
26.
that it's people in your age bracket and like in our son's age bracket. So, really people that are starting to make money. So you're looking at that 25 to 35 range. They don't leave their homes. They DoorDash. They use their streaming services. If they want to watch a movie, they're watching it at home.
DoorDash. You try to get me to DoorDash, and you want me to pay somebody to deliver food for me. That's 2 blocks away.
Oh, it's too close. I would go. It has to be a place that I don't want to drive to.
Well, we had construction workers here and everything because we were getting the house remodeled. So,
See, I do it when it's too far away, or the opposite of it. I'm gonna do all this other stuff on my lunch. I won't have time to cook anything or go grab something, so I'm gonna order DoorDash on my lunch. So by the time I get back home, it's getting there too.
well, and the thing about San Antonio, like if people are out there watching this on YouTube and they're not from San Antonio is very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're a huge city, but in your little zone, in your neighborhood where everything is, you have your H-E-B, which is our grocery store, and you have, all your little restaurants that you kind of commonly go to and the stores that you shop at and your movie theater maybe or your bowling alley or whatever that you go to, and you never leave your kind of little zone. And so that
Not
was
wrong.
the other thing that this study was showing, that it's become even more so like that, which is, I didn't even think it could get more like that in San Antonio, but it's so much more like that in San Antonio and around the world where people are
Because
just
they're
like,
still building strip malls all over the place.
it's like, here's my zone, and I can order everything from Amazon. I can get curbside or delivery from my local grocery store. I've even seen Kroger, because we don't even have Krogers in San Antonio anymore, but they deliver groceries now to people's homes here in San Antonio from their Krogers, like in the south of here. And so I love movies. I mean, growing up, we used to go to the movies and you could stay and you could watch it more than once. And it was great. Like, we used to go and it would be like an all-day event, or sometimes Vincent and I would look through the movie times and there would be like 3 of them that we really wanted to see, and we'd make sure they all lined up so that we could go to all of them. And So I'm gonna miss it if they get rid of them.
I don't think they'll get rid of them completely. I think they're gonna do what the bowling alleys have done over the years. So if you know, especially y'all are older than me. Growing up, it was always a bowling alley. You don't call them bowling alleys anymore. That's incorrect. Now they're bowling centers because now they have arcades, they have a bar, they have pool tables, they have bowling alley, they have your pro shop, they have all these other things in them. So they've kind of transitioned away from just a bowling alley to bowling centers, as they've now evolved to have a little of everything.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's what movies are going to do. I mean, look at like our biggest ones here. We got Evo, we got Santikos, the one on 10, and then the one on 35, the Evo and Santikos over there. They're becoming more restaurant-like. They're becoming, here's a espresso
And then you
machines.
have
Here's
like Andretti's, where they have bowling there, they have golf there, they have laser tag there.
Yeah.
And main event, and then
I don't
it's
like
just
airlines.
Yeah, so I
bunch of
can just see
garbage.
them rolling. Like Casablanca is like that too. So
Yes,
you
they
can
have
go
the
and
bowling
they'll
alley.
send you these coupons and you get these deals where you can get a large pizza and a large popcorn and drinks and bowling and a movie and the arcade.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
what it's
and
gonna
it's
become.
like, you know, and that's what it's going to be, where it's going to be like an event basically.
And that's what I'm wondering. Are they going to be eventually, before our lifetime's over, is it going to be no longer movie theaters, but like you said, movie events or movie centers? Because you're going to be able to do all this stuff in there. Like me personally, I hate. You brought it up, so I'm just gonna say it. Main event. I hate their lanes because I like to bowl. I'm a bowler. Their lanes are garbage here. They're dry. They're not taken care of. You can tell versus a bowling center, which they're taken care of. But if you watch the PBA tour, some of the high-end main events are used for the PBA tour, which is the professional bowlers, because they take care of them. But what are they showing? You see behind the bowlers all the arcades behind them and stuff, because it's like, oh, we didn't cover this spot up. I'm like, come on, you could have covered that up. But you see all the games. It's like, oh, they have games there, and that's the strategy.
Right, that's the strategy. is to
And
get
here's
you-
the alcohol, because you see the audience members and they're drinking their beers and stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, it's.
Yeah,
I think
because
that's
if you're
what's
gonna leave
changing.
your house, it better be like everything in one place,
Yeah.
because I'm not gonna leave my house and go here for dinner and go here for entertainment and go here to do this, that. Yeah.
And like you said, they get coupons, so it's like, oh, free pizza with a purchase of a movie ticket or something. They eat the fee there, but then you're gonna buy the popcorn, you're gonna buy the sodas, you're gonna buy everything else, and they got you still.
Yep. And then they've got you again. So.
So Thor, if you haven't seen it, wait till
That's what
it
we're
comes
talking
out
about.
Just
in
watch
Disney
it at
Plus.
home.
Watch it.
Or get a coupon, go bowling, get some pizza, get some popcorn, go see Thor.
Hey, by the way,
It'll
main
be
events
fun.
and Ticos, whoever wants to sponsor.
Whoever would like to sponsor us, we'd be glad to support it because we love it.
Go to Cinemark.
Go ahead.
So cool. No, so that was what we thought about Thor.
And everything else,
And
because we
everything
kind
else.
of divulged a lot
My
today.
bad.
No, we're all bad about it. It was nice to divulge
Yeah.
a little bit. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So.
But well, thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. I'm Vince.
I'm Colleen, and thank you. Yay, Aaron's back!
Geek out,
Geek out,
SA.
SA.